right, well, now we've made some shapes and we've made, we made a bird and we made some flowers. And now we're gonna do the easy part of making that into a pattern, all right? So you're gonna do this with whatever organic objects you've created, whether that's a cactus or a meteor or an ant, etc. Make things that you're interested in. So you're going to use those shapes and to create a pattern. All right, sharing my screen. Okay, so this is basically where we left off in the last video, where we had put our color palette in here. We'd made a couple birds, we made a couple flowers. Now you'll notice I've added something new here. These came from a little sketch that I made. And remember, you can trace an image of a sketch. So you can take a photo, you can make a drawing, take a photograph of it, put it into Illustrator and trace it. So just to review that real quick here, I'm going to go to File, Place, and that would be there, and Drawn Leaves. And again, I took this picture with my phone and I emailed it to myself, and then I plopped it into Photoshop just to crop out the anything that wasn't white. After I've placed the image, I'll go to Window, open Image Trace, and here, this is where I might want to choose Sketched Art. And it automatically sets everything for me so that it's pretty ideal. So if the traced button is grayed out like it is here, it's just done the tracing for you. So you don't have to do anything else except for expand. So I'm going to close my image trace window and I'm going to press that expand button. So that turns the traced image into individual shapes. Now they are currently grouped, so if I want to move them individually, I can go to Object and Ungroup. So that's how I got these little doodads. And then obviously I changed the color so that they would fit in with my color palette. So again, just boop and boop. All right, so I was just thinking about, in making a pattern, I wanted some extra stuff to be able to play with. Okay, so making the pattern. First, we're going to make a new document. And give this the title of your pattern. So this is going to be Birds and Leaves and Flowers pattern. And this is actually the second one I've done of these, so I'm going to put a 2 at the end. And you're going to make this 10 by 10 inches, okay? Okay. Now we need to do a little bit of prep work in order to have our working space all ready to go. So the first thing I want you to do for this pattern situation is I want you to come up to Illustrator, go to your preferences, go to General, and you're going to set your keyboard increment to 10 inches. This is going to come in handy as we're making the pattern. Now, remember, once you're through with this, to go back and change it to whatever it was before you put 10 inches in. And of course, I don't remember what mine was, but change that back, or you're going to be surprised at some point when you're using Illustrator and you go to use your keyboard and whatever you're doing moves over 10 inches. So before you change it to 10 inches, make a note of what it was before that. All right, so then 10 inches. Next up, we need to import our color palette, I guess, just in case. So if we come back over here to this file, I can highlight my bird palette and I can go ahead and save that so that I can upload it into a new document. So I'm going to I'm going to save the swatch library. Do the first one. And give it a name that you're going to recognize. So I'm going to call this Birds and Flowers. And it's going to go into your swatches folder automatically. That's good. That's where you want it. Press save. Say okay to this. That's fine. Then come over to your palette working document, and your pattern working document, and you're going to come over here again to that menu in your swatches. Whoops, you don't need that. In your swatches palette, or down here, there's this little swatch libraries menu. And remember, this is where I was showing you that there were these other palettes that you could choose from. Well, if you come down here to user defined, these are all the user defined palettes that I've already made. A little bit confusing that they're all kind of named the same thing. So I should probably clean that up. But we're going to go with Birds and Flowers. And again, it pops up in its own dialog box over here, or its own palette. So I'm going to grab onto it and I'm going to move it into my main swatches area so that I don't have to have multiple windows open over here. That way, in the event that I want to change any colors as I'm working on the pattern, I've got that already loaded up. So next up, I want to bring in all of the elements from my playing with colors. So I want to bring in all the things that I've drawn. I'm going to use the selection tool and I'm going to highlight everything. Well, everything that I would want in my pattern. I don't need these because I've already copied them over here. I don't need that because I've already gotten what I need out of it. So I'm going to copy this. So Apple C, come over to my pattern window and Apple V, and it's really quite large, so I'm going to shrink that down a bit. Remember to hold the shift key as you do this so that you keep the proportions. And I'm going to plop all of my source material outside of the artboard. And in fact, I want to give myself a little bit of space over here too. So I'm even going to take this stuff and move it even further out. So this is basically my pattern source material. This is stuff that I'm going to end up copying and pasting into the artboard to create the pattern. And I just want it accessible outside of the artboard for easy and quick work. Okay, I'll zoom out so that you can see that stuff over there. All right, now the next steps are fairly important to follow, so maybe take notes on exactly what to do here. The first thing that we want to do is don't make your pattern on a white background. Give your background some kind of color. To do this, we're going to open up the layers palette, which is, well, it's hiding from me. I'm going to go to Window. I might already have it open somewhere. I'm going to go to Window and Layers. Oh, it's behind my Zoom. Here we are. Okay. And we're going to put the background color into its own layer so that so that we can lock it and not accidentally select it as we're moving things around in the pattern. So you're going to make a new layer and drag that new layer, which is currently called layer 2, drag that below layer 1. Click on the type. I'll double click on the type to change the title, and we're going to call it background. And with the background layer highlighted over here, we're going to draw a square that covers this entire artboard, okay? And that square, you want to be in the same color family as your palette here, but you don't want it to be exactly the same as one of these colors, because then the colors in the things that you drew aren't going to show up. You're not going to pop. So select one of those colors, and we're going to create either a tint or a shade of that color. So once you've selected it over here, it shows up over here in your color picker. Double click on that, and you'll see that it gives you this whole variety of tints and shades of that same color. So make it a little bit lighter or a little bit darker than the color that's actually in your palette, and this is going to keep it in that same color family and is going to keep the whole thing unified, the whole pattern unified, okay? So I'm going with something a little bit lighter. You could also choose to go a little desaturated or a little bit more saturated. That's up to you. This is your design. And now I'm going to go ahead and draw a rectangle, well, a square technically, that covers that entire artboard. Also make sure that you don't have a stroke color selected, and if you do, make sure you get rid of that. And you'll notice that my bounding box is red. That's indicating that it's in this other layer. After you've drawn that rectangle square, I want you to go ahead and lock the background. Do that by just clicking over here, right there. Now I can copy and paste things on top of this, and I'll be able to move them around without my background layer color moving. So make sure that you now go to layer 1 in order to start creating your pattern design. Okay, so now it's time to start plopping things into the pattern. Start by selecting one of your objects over here and copying and pasting. You want to go ahead and leave the originals over on the side just so that you've got them, again, they're your source material. So we're going to go ahead and copy and paste. And when making a pattern, you want to start by putting things that are overlapping the edges, okay? So the bird is hanging off the edge, because ultimately what we're going to do in creating the pattern is it's going to become seamless, and we need things that are overlapping this edge in order to create that repetition. Once you've put something on the edge here, what we're going to do is we're going to copy it and we're going to paste it in front. And the keyboard shortcut there is Command C to copy and then Command F to paste in front. So Command C and Command F. Now it's right on top of itself right here. And the next thing I'm going to do, and this is why we put in that 10-inch increment on your keyboard, then you're going to use your arrow key just once, and it moves that pasted bird 10 inches to the left. All right, so it's important that that is accurately exactly 10 inches, otherwise your pattern isn't going to seamlessly connect. I'm going to do the same thing with this other bird. I'm going to copy it and paste it. And maybe I want this bird facing in the other direction. So I'm going to go to Object, Transform, Reflect. Yeah, vertical. Okay. And it just flips it. And so maybe I want this bird, you know, again, we're putting things on the edges. So we'll put this bird here. Again, we're going to copy and paste in front. So Apple C, Apple F. And again, with my arrow tool, move that one 10 inches over. I'll do the same with some of my flowers. So I'll grab this flower and copy and paste it. And we'll place this maybe here, and we'll copy and paste it in front and move it up. So again, you know, you've got this little overlap and you've got that little overlap there. And we'll take this flower and we'll copy and paste and we'll put it maybe like here. And again, I'm going to copy and paste in front and move down. Once you've got some stuff on the edges, and I may want to come in and fill some more stuff in through here, then the fun part is filling in all of the inside. So you just start playing. So I'm going to take this bird and place it maybe here. Keep in mind that at this point now you can, well, not just at this point, but now you can shrink or expand your objects. Maybe this bird should be facing in a different direction. Now I like that bird, so I'm going to take that bird and copy and paste it. Maybe I need more of that bird and more of that bird. Now I'm noticing there's like, it's starting to get really repetitive with this angle of the back of the birds. So maybe I want to rotate some of my birds just a little bit to create a little bit more variety. Oops. And again, like I've said in other videos, this is the kind of thing that I might spend hours on tweaking. So I'm not gonna do that for this video because that would be the worst video ever. Oops. But now I'm gonna take some of these and copy and paste these little guys, these little leaves that I made. And you know, these are very tiny, so at this point you might want to zoom in so you can really see what you're doing. As you're working on these, you know, you can create new little objects, I guess, by taking this and bringing the three of these together to create a new little three-leafed thing. So maybe this gets flipped and the three of these get connected. Maybe that one needs to rotate. Come on, bud. You know, then I could group these three leaves so that they move together whenever I grab onto them. I could also now copy and paste that set of leaves. So maybe when I zoom out here, I'll see some good spots to put this now three-leafed thing. And again, for some variety, I might want to rotate some of these. I might want to scale some of these up or down. I may want to change the color, which is, a nice thing of having brought our palette in is that I can now highlight this and just quickly and easily give it a new color. And as long as I'm working with that palette, everything is going to remain unified and related. So you keep working on that until you've really started to fill this up and you start to feel pretty satisfied with the way that it's looking. And keep in mind that you can always tweak things after you've created your pattern. So I'm going to go ahead and make the pattern now. Again, I would add more things in here. This I don't feel like is a completed pattern. So add more things, and I'll show you another pattern that I made. Now, again, this is where to take out your notebook and make a note, because this is another important bit, an important step. Come back to this layers palette. Click on your background, and at this point we want to unlock the background and click on that square of color that is making up your background color, and you're going to copy and paste that. So again, oops, I'm sorry, you're going to actually copy it and you want to paste it in back. So the keyboard shortcut to cut there is Apple B. These are also, you can do an edit, so paste in back. And with that still highlighted, you're going to change the fill color to nothing. And the same with the stroke. The stroke color should already be nothing. So basically we've just created an invisible square in the background, but this is going to help tell Illustrator the bounds of where we want the pattern. So all that being done, now I can move my layers palette back out of the way. And using the selection tool, I'm going to highlight everything that is on my artboard now. And that includes the stuff that's hanging off. And I'm really simply just going to drag all this stuff over here to the swatches window. And notice how a new swatch just showed up right here. Well, now I can use that new swatch with my shape tool, and it fills in my shape with the pattern that I just made. And you can see here there's a little seam, but I think that's just my, yeah, see when I zoom in, it comes and goes. So if this were to print, that wouldn't print. I think that's just a glitch in my screen. So if you see little seams like that, then zoom in or zoom out and see if that doesn't fix it. And if you've got little seams in it, don't worry about it as far as like turning it in, because I think it's just a glitch. So now I can preview my pattern, and if I look at it and I'm like, oh gosh, there's way too many orange birds, I should add some more purple birds. Well, I can just delete this rectangle that I just made, and I can come over here, I can add some more purple birds. I can play around, I can add more leaves, I can add some, different colors or whatever. And then I can do that, I can repeat that same step of just highlighting everything and dragging it into my swatches. And now I've got two. I've got the second one I did and the first one I did, which are only slightly different. But then I can draw another rectangle, and I can just draw it right on top of all this stuff to check it out and see how it's looking. Again, now it seems like there's like too many birds. So again, I could delete that rectangle, make some edits, highlight the whole thing, drag it over here. And once I'm satisfied, I'll want to get rid of any of these swatches that are old versions. So just drag those into the trash. And once you're like completely and totally happy with your pattern, then you'll want to save it so that you can open it in another document. So you're going to click on that one pattern and again, come over to the menu of your swatches palette, save swatch, well, save swatch library as. It's not really a whole library, it's just one swatch. Give it a name. This is my flowers and birds pattern 3. And again, it'll go into your swatches palette. Say okay. And then for turning what to turn in, now you're going to make that final document, which will be letter sized. Maybe call it with your name, Kozanowski pattern. That's my name, not your name. Put your name. And make sure you bring that pattern in. So go to your library, go to user defined, and I'm bringing in this birds and leaves and flowers pattern 3. Again, it shows up. Oh, wait a minute. This is why you should title things a little bit more. A little bit more specifically. Well, gosh, I don't know. I don't remember what I titled that last one, but this is one that I made recently. This is a different version. So I'm just dragging that singular swatch over into my swatches. And I can choose that pattern. And for what you're going to turn in then is I want you to fill the whole 8.5 by 11 artboard with your pattern. And you don't need to turn in the individual files for each of the steps here because I can see everything that you've done in this one file. Just for fun, like this is what I want you to turn in, but for fun, for you to think about like, well, what's the purpose of making this pattern? Well, think about this. This is the kind of thing you could send off to get printed to make wrapping paper. Or you could, you send it off and have wrapping paper done, and you also decide you want to have matching greeting cards. So you create a file that's got, I guess you should put a guide on there so you know exactly where the halfway point is. But, here you send these off to the printer and you can fold them in half and suddenly you've got cards. You can add text on here if you want to. Let's say, you even want to get fancy. And, I was talking about making the multiple art boards for different things. And again, this is all just optional stuff now, but showing you what is possible with your patterns that you just created. So I want to make a new artboard here, and maybe if I'm making this whole holiday themed situation with wallpaper, wrapping paper and cards, maybe I also need gift tags. So I could come over here, I could choose my star tool. And remember, if you click once, it allows you to choose how many points you want on your star. So yeah, sure, we'll say 5 points on my star. And let me make that bigger so that we can actually see the pattern within. And maybe I want to give it a stroke color. Now I failed to import my little library, so there we go. Bring that in so that I can bring in a stroke color that matches my whole color theme. So maybe this will be my stroke color. And I can copy and paste that now. And maybe I can fill up this whole 8.5 by 11 sheet with stars that then I send off to the printer. And honestly, you know, in the real world of like design work, oftentimes printers will be able to actually cut these out for you. But in our world right now, if you have a printer, print these out, cut them out with some scissors, and use these as sweet little gift tags. You could also send these to the printer and a printing company and have them made into stickers. But anyways, I'm just trying to show you like the applications that you can do with this pattern. What you're turning in is just the simple 8.5 by 11 letter sized full, whoop, full pattern. You're going to save it as an Illustrator file for yourself, so you've got a working file, and then save it as a PDF to turn in. And that, my friends, is how you make a pattern. I hope you enjoyed, have fun, and you will see me next time.